The command deck of the warship hummed with activity as officers moved between their stations. Nari stood at the center viewport, her violet hands clasped behind her back as she watched the stars drift past. At 7 feet tall, she commanded attention without speaking. Her uniform bore the marks of her rank, silver emblems that caught the light with each breath. She had earned every one of them through blood and strategy. Behind her, footsteps approached with a rhythm she had learned to recognize over the past 6 months. They were lighter than her crew's heavy boots, quicker and more tentative. She did not turn around. "General, the diplomatic reports are ready for your review," Taman said. His voice carried that strange human accent, soft where Valkyrie voices were harsh. "Leave them on my desk," Nari replied, still watching the stars. She heard him hesitate. That was another human trait she had noticed. They paused before speaking, as if weighing each word. Her people simply spoke their minds without such careful consideration. "Is something wrong?" Taman asked. Now Nari turned. The human stood a full 2 feet shorter than her, his dark hair neat and his uniform pressed. His eyes met hers without fear, another thing that surprised her about him. Most species looked away when facing a Valkyrie general, but Taman had never looked away, not from the first day he came aboard as Earth's cultural liaison. "Commander Hana spoke to me today," Nari said. "She asked why I waste my time with a human." Taman's expression did not change, but she saw his jaw tighten slightly. "What did you tell her?" "I told her it was not her concern." "But is it true?" Taman asked. "Am I wasting your time?" Nari stepped closer to him. Even after 6 months, the height difference still seemed absurd. When they had first met, she thought he looked like a child. The Valkyrie were bred for war, their bodies dense with muscle and reinforced bone. Humans were soft by comparison, their frames delicate and their strength laughable by galactic standards. But she had learned there was more to Taman than his appearance suggested. "You are not a waste," she said quietly. "But my crew believes you are weak. They do not understand why I have chosen you as my mate." "Have you chosen me?" Taman asked. "Or are we still deciding?" A small smile touched Nari's lips. Humans had a way of asking questions that made her think. "Among my people, when 2 share quarters and time as we have, it is decided. But I forget your species requires spoken declarations." "Words matter to us," Taman agreed. The door to the command deck slid open and Wu Jin entered. He was Nari's second officer, loyal and traditional. His yellow eyes swept the room and landed on Taman with obvious disapproval. He approached and gave a formal salute. "General, the Admiralty has sent new orders. We are to patrol Sector 9 for the next month." "Understood," Nari said. Wu Jin glanced at Taman again, then back to Nari. "There is another matter. Commander Hana has formally requested a meeting with you regarding protocol concerns." Nari understood immediately. This was about Taman. "Tell Commander Hana I will see her in 1 hour." Wu Jin saluted and left. When the door closed, Taman sighed. "I am causing problems for you," he said. "You are causing my crew to confront their assumptions," Nari corrected. "That is different." "Is it? Because from where I stand, it looks like everyone thinks their general has made a mistake." Nari reached out and placed her large hand on his shoulder. Her fingers nearly wrapped around his entire arm. "In my culture, there is a tradition. When a warrior chooses a mate from outside our species, that mate must undergo the trial of worth. 3 tests to prove they can stand beside a warrior." Taman looked up at her. "And if they fail? Then the union is considered inappropriate and must end." "That seems harsh." "It is practical," Nari said. "A warrior's mate must be able to survive our world, our duties, our dangers. Weakness puts both partners at risk." And you think I should take these trials? I think if we are to continue, my crew needs to see you prove yourself, not for my sake, but for yours. They will never respect you otherwise. Taman was quiet for a long moment. Nari watched emotions cross his face, another human trait that fascinated her. Her people learned to keep their faces neutral, to show no weakness. But Taman's face showed everything: doubt, fear, determination, acceptance. What are the 3 trials? He finally asked. Strength, wisdom, heart. That sounds ominous. It is meant to be. Many fail. Some are injured. But if you succeed, no one can question your place at my side. And if I fail? Nari's hand tightened on his shoulder, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to convey her feeling. Then I will have my answer about whether this can work between us. Taman reached up and placed his hand over hers. His fingers barely covered a portion of her palm. The size difference had seemed comical at first. Now it felt natural. When do the trials begin? He asked. Tomorrow, if you accept. I accept. Nari pulled her hand back and studied him carefully. You understand what you are agreeing to? The first trial is combat. You will face 3 warriors in succession. You have no combat training. I know. You will likely lose. Badly. Probably, Taman agreed. But you are not asking me to win. You are asking me to try. How do you know that? Because if you only valued winning, you would never have chosen me in the first place. I'm not the strongest or the fastest, but I have something else, and you see it, even if your crew does not. And what is that? Nari asked. Taman smiled. I guess we will find out in the trials. Later that evening, Nari met with Commander Hana in the briefing room. Hana was a tall warrior, even by Valkyrie standards, with scars from a dozen campaigns marking her blue skin. She stood at attention as Nari entered. You requested this meeting, Nari said, taking her seat. Yes, General, I must speak plainly. The crew is concerned about the human. He is not one of us. He cannot fight, he has no warrior spirit, and his presence undermines your authority. My authority is not so fragile that the presence of one human can undermine it. But he is your mate. What does it say to the crew when their general chooses someone so weak? It suggests weakness in you. Nari's eyes narrowed. You forget yourself, Commander. Hana bowed her head slightly. Forgive me, General, but I speak from concern, not disrespect. The Admiralty will hear of this. Questions will be asked. Then let them ask. Taman will undergo the trial of worth tomorrow. After that, there will be no more questions. Hana's expression shifted to surprise. The human agreed to the trials? He did. He will fail. The first trial alone will break him. Perhaps. Or perhaps we will learn something about humans we did not know. Hana stood silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. I will arrange for the crew to witness the trials. They should see what happens when a human tries to be Valkyrie. Arrange it, Nari said. But remember, Commander, he is not trying to be Valkyrie. He is trying to be himself. That may be enough. After Hana left, Nari returned to her quarters. Taman was there, reading something on his datapad. He looked up when she entered. How did your meeting go? He asked. As expected. The crew will watch tomorrow. They want to see you fail. No pressure then, Taman said with a weak smile. Nari sat beside him on the sleeping platform. The furniture had been modified to support her larger frame, making Taman look even smaller beside her. Are you afraid? She asked. Terrified, he admitted, but I am more afraid of losing you. That is honest. Honesty is all I have. I cannot match your strength or your fighting skills, but I can show your crew who I really am. Maybe that will be enough. Nari leaned down and pressed her forehead against his, a Valkyrie gesture of affection. Tomorrow, we find out if the galaxy is ready for a human and a Valkyrie to be together. "And if they are not ready," Taman whispered, "then we make them ready." The training hall was designed for warriors. High ceilings, reinforced walls, and a floor that could absorb the impact of bodies thrown across it. Today, nearly every crew member who could spare time from their duties had gathered to watch. They lined the elevated platforms around the arena floor, hundreds of violet and blue faces looking down with curiosity and skepticism. Taman stood in the center of the arena wearing simple combat clothes. No armor, no advanced protection, just basic padding on his chest and arms. The weapon rack beside him held traditional Valkyrie blades, staffs, and clubs. He had been told to choose whatever he wanted. He picked up a staff, testing its weight in his hands. It was heavier than he expected, designed for Valkyrie strength. Across the arena, 3 warriors waited. They wore light combat armor and each held their preferred weapon. Taman recognized them from the crew. They were not the best fighters on the ship, but they were not the worst either. A fair challenge, or at least as fair as it could be when a human faced Valkyrie warriors. Nari stood on the command platform above, Wu Jin beside her. Commander Hana was there too, her arms crossed and her expression already showing contempt. The general's face was neutral, but Taman could see the tension in her shoulders. She was worried for him. "The first trial begins," Wu Jin announced, his voice carrying through the hall. "Taman of Earth will face 3 warriors in succession. Each match ends when one fighter yields or cannot continue. Death is not the goal. Honor and skill are what we measure today." The crowd murmured. Taman heard whispers, some curious, many dismissive. He forced himself to breathe slowly and think clearly. Fear would not help him now. The first warrior stepped forward. His name was Kiro, a young soldier eager to prove himself. He carried a sword, standard length, with a slight curve to the blade. He gave Taman a warrior's salute, fist to chest, and Taman returned it as best he could. "Begin," Wu Jin called. Kiro came at him immediately, fast and aggressive. Taman barely got his staff up in time to deflect the first strike. The impact sent vibrations up his arms and he stumbled backward. Kiro pressed the advantage, striking again and again. Taman blocked and dodged, but each block hurt. The Valkyrie's strength was overwhelming. The crowd was already laughing. Taman heard their comments. "He moves like a child. This is pathetic. The general should be ashamed." Taman gritted his teeth and focused. He could not match Kiro's strength, so he would not try. Instead, he watched the warrior's movements, looking for patterns. Kiro favored high strikes, putting his full weight behind each blow. That was his mistake. When Kiro swung high again, Taman did not block. He dropped low and swept his staff at Kiro's legs. The warrior was not expecting an attack so low or so quick. His feet went out from under him and he crashed to the floor. The crowd went silent. Kiro roared in anger and sprang back up. He charged again, more careful this time. Taman knew he could not repeat the same trick. Instead, he backed away, forcing Kiro to chase him. The warrior was stronger, but Taman was lighter and quicker. He made Kiro work for every strike, dodging and retreating. "Stand and fight!" Kiro shouted. Taman did not answer. He was too busy breathing and staying alive. His strategy was simple: tire the warrior out and avoid taking hits. It was not glorious, but it kept him on his feet. Minutes passed. Kiro's strikes became slightly slower, his breathing heavier. Taman was exhausted too, but he had learned to pace himself. When Kiro overcommitted to another strike, Taman sidestepped and brought his staff down on the warrior's extended arm. Not hard enough to break anything, but hard enough to hurt. Kiro cursed and backed away, shaking his arm. They circled each other. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were watching with genuine interest now. The match continued for several more minutes before Kiro finally landed a solid hit, catching Taman in the ribs and sending him sprawling. The pain was immediate and sharp. Taman gasped for air and tried to stand, but Cairo was already there, sword pointed at his throat. "Yield," Kiro said. "I yield," Taman managed to say. The crowd erupted in noise, some cheering for Kiro, others discussing what they had seen. Taman slowly got to his feet, holding his side. Kiro offered his hand and pulled him up. "You are tougher than you look, human," Kiro said quietly. "Thanks, I think." The second warrior stepped forward before Taman could fully catch his breath. Her name was Yuna, and she was more experienced than Kiro. She carried 2 short blades and moved with the grace of someone who had fought many battles. She did not salute. She simply attacked. Taman barely blocked the first flurry of strikes. Yuna was faster than Kiro and more precise. Her blades came from different angles, high and low, forcing Taman to constantly adjust. Within seconds, she had cut through his guard and sliced his arm. Blood welled from the shallow cut. The pain focused him. Taman abandoned defense and did something unexpected. He charged forward inside her guard and slammed his shoulder into her chest. It was not a powerful blow, but it surprised her. She stumbled back and he pressed forward, using his staff like a battering ram rather than a weapon. Yuna recovered quickly and punished him for his recklessness. Her blades found him twice more, once on his leg and once across his cheek. Taman felt blood running down his face but did not stop. He could not win, he knew that, but he could show them he would not give up. He kept fighting even as his vision blurred from exhaustion and pain. He kept moving even when his legs wanted to collapse. When Yuna finally disarmed him and put a blade to his throat, he was swaying on his feet. "Yield," she said. "I yield." Yuna stepped back and looked at him with something that might have been respect. "You should be unconscious. How are you still standing?" "Stubbornness," Taman said with a bloody smile. The crowd was quieter now. The mocking had stopped. They were watching him with new eyes, uncertain eyes. The third warrior approached. His name was Deho, and he was the largest of the 3. He carried a massive club that looked like it could crack stone. He studied Taman for a long moment. "You can barely stand," Deho said. "Yield now and save yourself more pain." Taman wiped blood from his face and picked up another staff from the weapon rack. "I did not come this far to quit." Deho nodded slowly. "Then I will try to end this quickly, for your sake." The third match was brutal. Taiho did not toy with him or test him. He attacked with full force, trying to finish it fast. Taman could barely defend himself. Every block sent shocks through his injured body. He was knocked down within the first minute. He stood up. Deho knocked him down again. He stood up. This happened 5 more times. Each time, Taman's body screamed at him to stay down. Each time, he forced himself back to his feet. His staff was cracked. His face was swelling. He could taste blood in his mouth, but he kept standing up. The crowd had gone completely silent. Even Commander Hana was leaning forward, watching intently. "Stay down," Deho said, and there was no anger in his voice. "You have proven enough." "Not yet," Taman whispered. Deho's next strike knocked the staff from Taman's hands and sent him crashing to the floor. This time, Taman's legs would not work. He tried to rise and fell. He tried again and could only get to his hands and knees. The arena was so quiet that Taman could hear his own ragged breathing echoing off the walls. "Do you yield?" Deho asked gently. Taman looked up at the warrior towering over him. Then he looked up at Nari on the command platform. She was gripping the railing so hard her knuckles were pale violet. Her face showed no expression, but her eyes told him everything. She was proud of him. "I yield," Taman said. Deho immediately dropped his club and helped Taman to his feet. Another warrior rushed forward with a medical kit. As they began treating his wounds, Wu Jin's voice rang out. "The first trial is complete. Taman of Earth faced 3 warriors and was defeated 3 times. According to tradition, he has failed the first test." The crowd murmured, but Taman noticed it was different now. They were not mocking him. They were talking about what they had witnessed. However, Wu Jin continued, and the crowd went quiet again. I have been a warrior for 30 years. I have seen many take the trials. I have never seen anyone stand up as many times as this human did. I have never seen anyone refuse to quit with such injuries. By Valkyrie standards, he lost, but he showed us something we did not expect. Commander Hana stepped forward. What he showed us was foolish stubbornness, not strength. Was it? Daeho called out from the arena floor. I tried to end it quickly. He would not let me. He kept standing. I have fought warriors who gave up with less pain than he endured. Other voices joined in, debating and arguing. Taemin sat on the floor, letting the medics work on him, and listened to them argue about him, about humans, about what strength meant. Nari descended from the platform and crossed the arena. The crowd went quiet as she approached. She knelt beside Taemin, her huge frame making him look tiny even sitting down. Can you hear me? She asked softly. Yes, Taemin said. You lost all 3 matches. I know. But you did not quit. I could not. Not in front of your crew, not in front of you. Nari reached out and gently touched his swollen face. Her huge hand was surprisingly tender. My people value strength. Today you showed them that humans have a different kind of strength. The strength to endure. The strength to keep trying when any reasonable person would surrender. Is that enough? Taemin asked. I do not know yet. But it is a start. She stood and addressed the crowd. The first trial is complete. Taemin will have 2 days to recover before the second trial begins. Dismissed. As the crew filed out, still talking and debating, Taemin let the medics help him to his feet. Every part of his body hurt, but he had survived. He had shown them who he was. Whether that was enough remained to be seen. 2 days later, Taemin's body still ached, but the swelling had gone down. The medical team had worked efficiently, using advanced healing technology that would have seemed like magic on Earth. His ribs were bruised but no longer broken. The cuts on his face and arms had sealed, leaving only faint pink lines that would fade in another few days. He stood in the simulation room, a large circular chamber with walls that could project any scenario. The crew had gathered again, though the atmosphere was different this time. They watched him with curiosity rather than contempt. Word of the first trial had spread, and opinions about the human had begun to shift. Nari entered the chamber and stood beside him. She wore her full uniform today, every medal and rank marker on display. This was official. The second trial tests wisdom and strategic thinking, she announced to the room. Taemin will command a small fleet in a simulated battle scenario. I will command the opposing force. The scenario is based on a historical battle where the Valkyrie Empire faced overwhelming odds. Who won the original battle? Taemin asked quietly. We did. Barely. It cost us 70% casualties, but we achieved a glorious victory. What defines victory in this simulation? Destroying the enemy fleet or forcing their surrender. The simulation ends when one side is completely defeated or after 6 hours of battle time, whichever comes first. Wu Jin stepped forward with a data pad. You will have 10 ships under your command. The general will have 30. Your ships are smaller and less armed. The scenario is considered impossible to win. Then why make me do it? Taemin asked. To see how you handle impossible situations, Nari replied. Wisdom is not just about winning. It is about making the best choices with bad options. Taemin nodded and moved to the command console. The walls of the room flickered and transformed into a star field. 10 small ship icons appeared in green, arranged in a standard defensive formation. 30 larger red icons appeared at the edge of the projection, moving toward him in a curved attack pattern. Begin, Nari said. The simulation started, and immediately Taman saw the problem. Nari's fleet was not just larger, it was positioned to surround him. If he stayed where he was, his ships would be overwhelmed from multiple directions. If he moved forward to engage, he would be diving into a superior force. He studied the display and made his first decision. His fleet broke formation and scattered in different directions. The crowd murmured in confusion. This was not standard Valkyrie tactics. "What is he doing?" Commander Hana asked from the observation area. "He is running," someone replied. But Taman was not running. Not exactly. His ships split into 3 groups, each heading in different directions, but staying close enough to support each other if needed. Nari's fleet adjusted to pursue, but she had to divide her forces to chase multiple targets. The first engagement happened near an asteroid field. 3 of Taman's ships lured 5 of Nari's ships into the asteroids, then turned and fired. The asteroids provided cover and disrupted targeting systems. Taman's ships destroyed 2 of Nari's before retreating again. "Interesting," Wujin muttered. The battle continued. Taman never committed to a full engagement. His ships would strike, damage a few enemy vessels, then retreat. He used terrain, false retreats, and ambushes. Every time Nari tried to corner one group of his ships, they would slip away and another group would attack from a different angle. An hour passed, then 2. Nari had lost 8 ships but had only destroyed 3 of Taman's. The simulation showed supply lines stretching thin as her fleet chased his scattered forces. "This is cowardice," Commander Hana declared. "He refuses to fight with honor." "He is fighting smart, not honorably," another officer countered. "Look at the losses. He is winning." "He is not winning. He is hiding and running." Nari said nothing. She focused on the simulation, adjusting her strategy. She tried to predict where Taman would go next, but he kept changing patterns. There was no honor in his tactics, no glorious charges, no brave stands, just constant harassment and retreat. 3 hours into the simulation, Nari made a decision. She sent a large portion of her fleet to attack one of his supply bases, forcing him to either defend it or lose critical resources. Taman watched the enemy ships moving toward his base and made a choice that shocked everyone. He abandoned the base entirely. His ships retreated and let Nari's fleet destroy the undefended station. "What is he doing?" Someone in the crowd gasped. "He just gave up a major asset." But while Nari's ships were occupied destroying the base, Taman's forces attacked her supply lines on the opposite side of the battlefield. Without supplies, ships could not repair or rearm. He had traded a base for crippling her logistics. "Clever," Wujin admitted quietly. The simulation continued. Nari's fleet began to show signs of strain. Ships needed repairs, but the supply situation was critical. Taman continued his hit-and-run tactics, never giving her a chance for a decisive battle. He was bleeding her slowly, draining her resources and morale. At the 5-hour mark, the simulation showed a stalemate. Nari still had more ships, but they were damaged and running low on supplies. Taman had fewer ships, but they were relatively intact and mobile. Neither side could defeat the other without taking unacceptable losses. The simulation ended at 6 hours with no clear victor. The star field disappeared and the room returned to normal. The crowd erupted in debate. "He did not win," Commander Hana insisted. "But he did not lose either," Deho pointed out. "He faced a fleet 3 times his size and forced a stalemate. By running away and refusing to fight properly. By surviving and making the enemy pay for every advance," another voice argued. Nari walked to the command console where Taman stood. Her expression was unreadable. "Explain your strategy," she said. Taman took a breath. "You had superior numbers and firepower. I could not beat you in direct combat. So I did not try. Instead, I made you chase me, spread your forces thin, and attacked your weaknesses. I traded territory for time and used that time to damage your logistics. In a war, you don't always need to destroy the enemy. Sometimes you just need to make victory too expensive. This is not how Valkyrie fight, Commander Hana said. I am not Valkyrie, Taemin replied simply. You asked me to show wisdom in an impossible situation. I showed you how humans approach impossible situations. We adapt. We find another way. We survive. Nari studied him for a long moment. In the original battle, the Valkyrie commander led a direct charge against the enemy flagship. He sacrificed most of his fleet to kill the enemy leader. It was glorious. We sing songs about his bravery. And 70% of his people died, Taemin said quietly. Yes, but we won with honor. I understand honor is important to your people, but humans define honor differently. For us, honor means protecting those under our command. Honor means bringing our people home alive. If I can win without sacrificing lives, that is more honorable than a glorious death. The room went silent. Even Commander Hana seemed uncertain how to respond. Wu Jin stepped forward. The second trial tests wisdom. The question is whether the human showed wisdom or cowardice. I vote we allow the crew to decide. Nari nodded. All who believe Taemin showed wisdom, show your hands. About half the crew raised their hands immediately. Others hesitated, looking at their neighbors. Slowly, more hands went up. When the count was finished, roughly 2/3 of the crew had voted in favor. All who believe he showed cowardice? The remaining third raised their hands, including Commander Hana. The crew has spoken, Nari announced. By majority decision, Taemin has passed the second trial. His approach was unconventional but effective. We may not agree with his methods, but we cannot deny he achieved a result we did not expect. Commander Hana stepped forward, her face showing clear disapproval. General, with respect, this sets a dangerous precedent. If we accept tactics without honor, what separates us from pirates and raiders? The difference, Taemin said before Nari could respond, is why you fight and who you protect. Pirates fight for themselves. You fight for your people and your empire. The tactics may be different, but the purpose matters more than the method. Those are just words, Hana countered. Maybe, but in the simulation, fewer people died using my tactics than would have died using traditional Valkyrie tactics. Those lives have value. That is not just words. Hana had no response to that. She looked to Nari, who remained silent, letting the exchange play out. Finally, Wu Jin spoke. Commander Hana, the trial is complete, and the crew has voted. You may disagree, but the result stands. Hana gave a stiff salute and returned to her position. The crowd began to disperse, conversations breaking out everywhere. Taemin heard fragments of debate as people left. He fights like a coward. He fights like someone who wants to live. The general is teaching us something. Or the human is corrupting our traditions. When the room had mostly cleared, Nari approached Taemin. They stood in the empty simulation chamber, surrounded by blank walls. You made them think, she said. For a warrior species, that is uncomfortable. I noticed. Commander Hana hates me. She hates change, but some of the others are starting to question. That is good. Is it? I feel like I am dividing your crew. Nari placed her hand on his shoulder, a gesture that had become familiar. Progress always creates division. Some adapt quickly, others resist. But you showed them today that humans have strategic minds, even if our approaches differ. That is the point of these trials. Not to make you Valkyrie, but to show what humans bring to the galaxy. One more trial, Taemin said. The test of heart. The hardest one. It will be in 3 days. Use that time to prepare yourself mentally. The third trial does not test your body or your strategy. It tests who you are at your core. That sounds ominous. It is meant to be. Many warriors fail the third trial even when they pass the first two. Your mind will be your battlefield, and you will face things you do not want to face. Taemin looked at her. Will you tell me what to expect? No. If I told you, it would not be a true test. You must go in blind and face whatever comes. That is not very comforting. It is not meant to be comforting. It is meant to reveal truth. In 3 days, we will see if you can face yourself and come out whole. Taemin nodded slowly. He had survived pain. He had shown his strategic thinking. Now he would have to face something deeper, something more personal. The thought terrified him more than the physical combat had. But he had come too far to stop now. Whatever the third trial held, he would face it. For Nari, for himself, and for the future they might build together, if he survived. 3 days passed too quickly. Taemin spent the time trying to prepare himself mentally. But how could someone prepare for the unknown? He meditated, spoke with Nari about Valkyrie philosophy, and tried to understand what the trial of heart truly meant. But Nari would only tell him that it was different for everyone. Now he stood outside a sealed chamber deep in the ship. The door was thick metal, marked with Valkyrie symbols he had learned meant truth and self. Inside was the holographic simulation system that would create his trial. Unlike the battle simulation, this one would connect directly to his mind, reading his thoughts and fears to create personalized scenarios. The crew gathered again, but this time they watched from monitor screens rather than in person. The trial of heart was considered deeply personal, and direct observation was seen as disrespectful. Only medical staff monitored his vital signs in case something went wrong. Nari stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Once you enter, you will be alone for 24 hours. The system will show you things, offer you things, challenge you in ways specific to your own mind. Many warriors break and beg to be released. What happens if I beg to be released? Then you fail, and we end this. Simple enough, Taemin said, though his voice shook slightly. Remember, nothing inside is real. It is all simulation, all projection. But your mind will believe it is real. That is what makes it difficult. Any advice? Nari leaned down and pressed her forehead to his, a gesture of intimacy he had come to cherish. Be yourself. Do not try to be what you think we want. The trial reveals truth. Let it. She stepped back, and the door opened. Inside was a simple room with a chair and neural connection interface. Taemin walked in, his heart pounding. The door sealed behind him with a heavy thud that sounded like finality. He sat in the chair and placed the neural interface on his head. The system activated immediately. Lights dimmed, and the room around him seemed to dissolve. When the simulation began, Taemin found himself standing on Earth. He recognized the city immediately, Seoul, his home. The streets were familiar, filled with people going about their daily lives. It was so real he could smell the street food and hear the traffic. But something was wrong. The sky was wrong, darker, with strange clouds. He walked through the streets and noticed people were moving strangely, their faces blank, their eyes empty. And then he saw it. Ships in the sky. Alien ships. Not Valkyrie ships. Something else. Something hostile. They fired down at the city and buildings exploded. People ran screaming. The simulation was showing him Earth under attack, and he was powerless to stop it. No, he whispered, this is not real. It is just the simulation. But his mind knew that. His heart did not care. He watched his homeworld burn and felt helpless rage and grief wash over him. He ran through the streets trying to help people, but they dissolved like smoke when he touched them. Nothing he did mattered. A voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. You left Earth to explore the stars. You abandoned your world for adventure. Now your world burns and you are not there to protect it. Is this honor? Is this wisdom? I did not abandon Earth, Taemin shouted at the empty sky. I serve Earth by building bridges with other species. Do you? Or do you serve your own desires? You chose a Valkyrie mate over your own people. You chose personal happiness over duty. The accusation cut deep because part of him feared it was true. He had left Earth for the cultural exchange program, yes, but he had also wanted to escape. His life on Earth had been ordinary, safe, boring. He had wanted more, and when he met Nari, he had fallen for her without thinking about what it meant for his connection to humanity. I am still human, he said firmly. I have not forgotten my people. The scene shifted. Now he stood on the Valkyrie warship, in Nari's quarters. But Nari was different. She looked at him with cold eyes, eyes that held no warmth or affection. You are weak, this simulation, Nari said. I thought you could change, could become stronger, but you are still just a fragile human. You failed the combat trial. You ran away during the strategy trial. You are not worthy to stand beside me. That is not what you think, Taman said. I know you. This is not you. How do you know what I think? You are not Valkyrie. You will never truly understand me. We are too different. This was a mistake. She turned away from him. Taman felt his chest tighten with panic. Losing Nari was his deepest fear, the one thing he could not face. He reached for her, but she walked away, her form fading into shadow. Wait, he called out. Please. But she was gone. The room dissolved, and he was alone in darkness. The voice returned. You fear abandonment. You fear not being enough. You fear that your weakness will drive away those you love. These are your truths. Accept them. I do fear those things, Taman admitted to the darkness. But fearing them does not make them true. Nari knows who I am. She knows my weaknesses and my strengths. If she did not accept me, she would not have asked me to take these trials. Perhaps she asks you to take the trials hoping you will fail. Perhaps she seeks an honorable way to end what should never have begun. The words hurt, but Taman forced himself to think clearly. If that were true, she would have ended it already. Nari is not cruel. She does not play games with people's feelings. This is my fear talking, not reality. The darkness shifted and he was somewhere new. A medical bay. He saw himself lying on a table, his body broken and damaged. Medical staff worked frantically around him. Nari stood nearby, her face showing an emotion he had rarely seen on her. Grief. He is dying, a medical officer said. The injuries from the combat trial were more severe than we thought. Internal damage we did not catch in time. Can you save him? Nari asked, her voice breaking. No, General. I am sorry. He has perhaps an hour. Taman watched this scene play out, watched Nari's pain, watched himself dying. The simulation was showing him his mortality, his fragility. Humans lived shorter lives than Valkyrie. He would age and die while Nari remained strong. Even if they stayed together, she would lose him eventually. This is true, the voice said. You are temporary. Your time with her will be brief compared to her lifespan. Is it fair to make her love someone who will leave her so soon? Taman felt tears on his face. No, it is not fair. But life is not fair. Love is not fair. She knows I will not live as long as her. She chose me anyway. Did she? Or did she choose the idea of you, the novelty, the rebellion against her culture? When the reality of your mortality becomes real, will she still choose you? I do not know, Taman admitted. But I cannot make decisions for her based on my fears. She has the right to choose, even if that choice brings her pain later. And I have the right to love her, even knowing our time is limited. The scene dissolved again. This time, the simulation showed him something different. He stood in a command center during a crisis. Alarms blared. Crew members shouted reports. A battle was happening, and he was in charge. "Make a decision," someone shouted at him. "We need orders now." Taman looked at the tactical display. There were no good options. Every choice meant losing people. He could save the ship but sacrifice a section of crew trapped behind hull breaches, or he could try to save those crew members but risk the entire ship. "What do you choose?" the voice asked. "Command requires making impossible decisions. Are you strong enough to order people to their deaths? Are you strong enough to live with that choice?" Taman stared at the display, his mind racing. In the combat trial, he had endured pain. In the strategy trial, he had found alternative solutions. But here, there was no clever trick, no way to avoid loss. He had to choose who lived and who died. "I choose to save the ship," he said quietly. "I seal the damaged sections. Those crew members die so the rest can live." The simulation showed him the result. 43 crew members died. He watched their names scroll past on a screen, each one a person with a life, with family, with dreams. The weight of that decision crushed him. He fell to his knees, sobbing. "You killed them," the voice said. "You made the hard choice, but it does not make it easier. This is command. This is leadership. Can you live with this?" "I do not know," Taman whispered through his tears. "I do not know if I am strong enough." "Then why try? Why seek to be with someone whose life involves these choices? You could return to Earth, find a human partner, live a quiet life. Why choose pain?" Taman wiped his eyes and forced himself to stand. Because meaning does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from choosing what we believe is worth the pain. Nari is worth it. Being part of something larger than myself is worth it, even if it hurts. "Even if I fail sometimes." "You admit you might fail?" "Of course I might fail. Everyone might fail. But trying and failing is better than never trying at all. That is what it means to be human. We try anyway." The simulation showed him one final scene. A simple room, comfortable and peaceful. A voice offered him a choice. "You can leave. End the trial now. Tell Nari it was too much, that you are not ready. Return to your simple life. There is no shame in knowing your limits." The offer was tempting. Every part of Taman's mind was exhausted from facing his fears, his inadequacies, his mortality. It would be so easy to just stop, to give up, to go back to something simpler. But he thought about Nari, not the simulation version, the real Nari. He thought about her strength, her curiosity about him, the way she looked at him like he mattered. He thought about the crew members who had started to see humans differently. He thought about what his success or failure might mean for future relations between their species. "No," he said to the empty room. "I am not leaving. I accepted this trial and I will see it through. Show me more fears if you want. I will face them. I am still here." The simulation paused as if considering. Then everything went dark and quiet. Taman sat in that darkness for hours or maybe minutes. Time had lost meaning. He waited for something else to happen, but nothing did. Eventually, he realized the trial had ended. He had faced his fears, acknowledged them, and chosen to continue anyway. The neural interface disconnected. The chamber lights came on, the door opened, and Nari stood there, Wu Jin beside her. Both looked tense. "How long?" Taman asked, his voice hoarse. 24 hours, Nari said. "You did not break. You did not ask to leave. Your vital signs showed extreme stress, but you endured." Taman stood on shaky legs. Nari caught him before he fell. "What did you see?" she asked softly. "My fears, my weaknesses, my mortality, difficult choices, everything I am afraid of." "And what did you do?" "I accepted them. I cannot change what I am afraid of, but I can choose what I do despite those fears." Wu Jin stepped forward. "The trial of heart has been passed. You have shown that you possess the inner strength necessary to face darkness and uncertainty. This is what we needed to see." Nari helped Taman out of the chamber. As they walked through the corridors, crew members stopped and saluted. Not mocking, not skeptical. Respectful. 3 trials complete. Now they would see what came next. Taman spent the next day recovering in Nari's quarters. His body was fine, but his mind felt exhausted from the emotional trials. Nari stayed with him when she could, but her duties as general kept pulling her away. The ship had patrol schedules to maintain and a crew to command. He was lying on their shared sleeping platform when the alarm sounded. It was not the regular alert for drills. This was the emergency combat alarm, the one that meant real danger. Taman sat up immediately as Nari rushed in, already pulling on her armor. "What is happening?" he asked. "Pirates. A coalition fleet, much larger than expected. They ambushed us near the nebula." She was moving fast, efficient, all business. "Stay here. The ship's defensive systems will protect this section." "How many ships?" 37. We have one." Taman felt his stomach drop. "Those are terrible odds." "Yes, but we are Valkyrie. We have faced worse." She paused at the door. "Stay safe. I will return." Then she was gone. Taman sat in the empty quarters for exactly 10 seconds before he got up and ran toward the bridge. He knew he was not supposed to, but he could not just sit and wait while Nari fought for their lives. The corridors were chaotic. Crew members rushed to battle stations. Emergency lights flashed red. Taman dodged around warriors twice his size and finally reached the bridge. The doors opened and he saw controlled chaos. The main view screen showed the tactical situation, and it was bad. Enemy ships surrounded them from 3 sides. The Valkyrie warship was powerful, but not powerful enough to handle nearly 40 hostile vessels. Energy blasts rocked the ship, and Taman grabbed a railing to stay upright. Nari stood at the command center, shouting orders. Wu Jin coordinated defensive fire. Other officers managed shields and weapons. No one noticed Taman enter until he moved closer to the tactical display. "What are you doing here?" Nari demanded when she saw him. "I could not just wait. I wanted to help." "This is not your place. Get to safety." Another blast hit the ship, stronger than before. Sparks flew from one of the consoles. A crew member cried out as systems overloaded. Nari turned back to the battle, temporarily forgetting about Taman. He watched the tactical display and his mind started working. The pirates were using standard overwhelming force tactics, surrounding the ship and firing from all directions. The Valkyrie shields were holding but weakening fast. At this rate, they had maybe 20 minutes before the shields failed and the ship was destroyed. "Target their command ship," Nari ordered. "If we can kill their leader, maybe the others will scatter." "Shields at 40%, someone reported. "Forward batteries damaged. We have lost main cannon functionality." The reports kept coming, each one worse than the last. Taman could see the strain on Nari's face. She was trying to find a way to fight their way out, to achieve a glorious victory against impossible odds, because that was what Valkyrie did. But there was no glorious victory here. There was only survival or death. Another blast, and this time it was serious. The bridge shook violently. One entire console exploded and the officer manning it went down. Medical teams rushed forward. Smoke filled the air. "Shields at 25%, a panicked voice called out. Nari looked at the tactical display, her face showing something Taman had never seen before, uncertainty. She was running out of options and she knew it. Then everything happened at once. A massive blast struck the shield generators. The shields failed completely. The next hit tore through the hull in Section 7, venting atmosphere. Alarms screamed, and Nari collapsed, struck by falling debris from an overhead panel. "General down!" Wu Jin shouted. Taman ran to her side. Blood flowed from a gash on her head. She was conscious but dazed. Medical teams rushed to her, but the bridge was chaos. Officers looked at each other. uncertain who should take command. "Acting command falls to the first officer," Wu Jin said, "but I was just injured." He held his arm, which hung at an unnatural angle. "Then command falls to the next ranking officer," someone said. "That is Lieutenant Jiho, but he is in Section 7, the section that just vented." The crew looked at each other in growing panic. Their command structure was breaking down. The ship was dying around them, and the enemy kept firing. "I can take command," Taman heard himself say. Everyone turned to look at him. A human, a civilian, someone who had no business commanding a warship. "Absolutely not," Commander Hana said, appearing from where she had been coordinating weapons. "You are not even military." "I am the ranking diplomatic officer still standing," Taman said, his voice stronger than he felt. "According to ship protocol, in the absence of military command, diplomatic staff can assume emergency authority. That is a technicality meant for negotiation situations, not combat. Then someone else take command. But do it now, because we have maybe 5 minutes before this ship is destroyed." No one moved. They were warriors, brave in combat, but this situation was unprecedented. Their general was down, their command structure was broken, and a human was offering to step in. "Let him," Nari said weakly. The medical team had stopped her bleeding. "Let him command." "General, you cannot be serious," Hana protested. "He passed the trials. He showed wisdom in impossible situations. This is an impossible situation. Let him try." She looked at Taman. "Show them what humans can do." Taman stepped to the command center, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his chest. Every eye on the bridge watched him. He looked at the tactical display and forced his mind to work, to push past the fear and think clearly. "Report," he said, his voice steady. "What assets do we have?" "Shields are gone. Hull breaches in 4 sections. Main weapons are down. We have secondary batteries only, and they are nearly depleted," an officer reported. "Engines? Functional but strained. We cannot outrun them all." Taman studied the enemy formation. 37 ships, arranged to maximize firing coverage. They were so confident in their victory, they were not even being careful. That was their mistake. "Broadcast a surrender signal," Taman ordered. "What?" multiple voices shouted at once. "Do it now! Full spectrum broadcast! Tell them we are ready to discuss terms!" "This is cowardice," Commander Hana said. "This is survival. Do it!" The communications officer looked to Nari, who nodded weakly. The officer sent the signal. On the view screen, the enemy ships stopped firing. A voice came through, rough and mocking. "Valkyrie warship, you finally see reason. Prepare to be boarded. You will become our prize." "Acknowledged," Taman replied. "We request 10 minutes to prepare for surrender. We have injured crew to stabilize. You have 5 minutes. Then we board whether you are ready or not." The communication cut off. The bridge erupted in anger and confusion. "You are giving them the ship!" Hana shouted. "Be quiet and listen," Taman said, and something in his voice made everyone stop. "We are not surrendering. While they think we are preparing to give up, here is what we do. Divert all power from weapons to engines. Everything. If we do that, we cannot fight at all," an officer said. "We are not going to fight. Bring up a map of this sector. Show me the nearest gravity well." A star chart appeared. Taman pointed to a massive planet with intense gravity just 2 light minutes away. "We are going to run, full speed, straight toward that planet. That gravity well will tear us apart if we get too close," the navigation officer said. "I know, but it will tear apart their smaller ships first. We are bigger, more massive. We can handle closer approach. Transfer all power to engines and structural integrity. Nothing else matters." Wu Jin stepped forward, cradling his injured arm. "This is insane. This is the only chance we have. When I give the order, we break for that planet at maximum speed. The pirates will chase us because they think we are running scared. We lead them straight into the gravity well. We slingshot around at the last possible moment. They either pull away and break pursuit, or they follow us in and get torn apart. And if our calculations are wrong, if we cannot pull away in time, then we die trying instead of dying here. At least we take some of them with us." The crew looked at each other. It was a crazy plan, desperate and dangerous, but it was a plan, which was more than they had moments ago. "The 5 minutes are almost up," someone warned. "Prepare to execute," Taman ordered. "All power to engines on my mark. Navigation. Plot the course to bring us as close to that planet as possible without crossing the point of no return. Engineering. I need structural integrity fields at maximum." "This will not be glorious," Commander Hanna said. "No, but we will be alive. And right now, that matters more than glory." The 5 minutes ended. The pirate fleet began moving closer, preparing to board. Taman waited until they were committed to their approach vector. "Now, execute." The Valkyrie warship suddenly blazed forward at full speed. The acceleration pressed everyone back. The pirates were caught off guard, but they quickly gave chase. 37 ships pursuing one fleeing warship. "They are following," Wu Jin confirmed. "Good. Maintain course. How long until we reach minimum safe distance from the planet?" 90 seconds. Those 90 seconds felt like hours. The ship strained under the acceleration. Warning alarms screamed about structural stress. The planet loomed larger on the view screen, a massive blue and gray ball of crushing gravity. "Some pirate ships are breaking off," an officer reported. "They realize what we are doing." "How many?" 12. 25 still in pursuit." "Enough. Navigation. Calculate our slingshot trajectory. We need to pull away at exactly the right moment." Calculating. This is going to be close. The gravity well began to pull at them. The ship shook. Systems groaned. The pursuing pirates were closer, firing at them, but Taman ignored the hits. Either the plan worked, or it did not. "Point of no return in 10 seconds, navigation called out. "Hold course. 5 seconds. Hold. 2 seconds. Now, break away." The ship turned hard, using the planet's gravity to sling them around and away. The maneuver was brutal. Crew members were thrown against their restraints, systems overloaded, but they made it, shooting away from the planet on a new trajectory. Behind them, the pirate ships tried to follow, but they were smaller, lighter, and they had waited too long. The gravity well caught them. Taman watched on the screen as 15 pirate ships were pulled in, unable to escape. They collided with each other, torn apart by gravitational forces. The remaining 10 ships broke off pursuit, scattered and disorganized. "Damage report," Taman said, breathing hard. "Multiple systems damaged but functional. Hull integrity holding. Casualties in engineering but no fatalities. We made it." A cheer went up on the bridge. Not the formal acknowledgement of victory, but actual cheering, relief, and joy mixed together. They had survived. Taman looked down at Nari. She was sitting up now, the medical team having stabilized her. She looked at him with something he could not quite name in her eyes. "You saved us," she said. "I did what I had to do. What humans do. We survive." Commander Hanna approached. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she placed her fist over her heart in a warrior's salute. "I was wrong about you. You command without honor, but you command with effectiveness. Perhaps there is more than one way to be strong." Other crew members added their salutes. Even Wu Jin, injured and exhausted, nodded with respect. "Send a message to the fleet," Nari ordered, her voice still weak but firm. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them a human commanded this ship and saved us all." Over the next few hours, as medical teams worked and engineering repaired critical systems, word spread through the ship. The human who had passed 3 trials had faced a 4th, unplanned trial, and he had passed it not through glorious combat, but through the same qualities he had shown all along: clever thinking, unconventional tactics, and a refusal to give up. That night in their quarters, Nari held Taman close. The size difference that had once seemed absurd now felt right. "I tested you to see if you could be Valkyrie," she said quietly. "I was looking for strength I understood. Instead, you showed me a different kind of strength. Human strength. The strength to endure, to adapt, to make terrible choices and live with them. I am sorry I do not fight with honor," Taman said. "Do not apologize. Today you showed me what human honor means. It means protecting those you are responsible for, no matter the cost to your pride. That is its own kind of glory." What happens now? Now, the galaxy learns about humans, about what you are capable of. You changed how my crew sees your species. That will ripple outward. Other species will ask questions. They will want to know what else humans can do. That sounds like a lot of pressure. You handled commanding a warship during a battle. I think you can handle the pressure." Taman smiled. "With you beside me, maybe." "Always," Nari promised. "You passed every test, the planned ones and the unplanned one. You have proven your worth by any standard. You are my mate, and anyone who questions that can face me personally." Outside their quarters, the crew worked to repair the ship and spread the story of what had happened. The tale would grow with each telling, as tales always do. The human who commanded a Valkyrie warship, the human who survived impossible trials, the human who showed the galaxy that humanity had its own strengths, different from any other species, but just as valuable. And somewhere on Earth, in offices that tracked humanity's relations with alien species, analysts would receive the report and realize something had changed. Humanity's reputation among the stars had shifted. They were no longer just the young, weak species. They were something else now. Something that made other species pause and reconsider. Taman did not know any of that yet. He just held Nari and felt grateful to be alive, to have found someone who saw him for what he was and loved him anyway. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight they had survived. And that was enough.